What's your best but wait, it gets worse story? Edit. Please stop saying I should sue the medical team at Bascom Palmer, several of whom I befriended during my treatments. I'd be dead if it wasn't for these people. Their initial assessment was 100% correct. A mole on your eye is just like a mole anywhere else. Normally, totally harmless. Unless it decides to grow into something else. Went to my eye doctor for my annual checkup. He says how there's a spot there that wasn't there last year. You need to go see this specialist. So I did. Then he said, oh yeah, this looks bad, go to this other specialist in Miami. I go to Miami. They go, yeah, it's a mole, don't worry about it, and call us if you notice any changes. But wait, it gets worse. A couple of years later I go back for another checkup and mention my eyesight got a bit worse. My eye doctor goes, HMN, that thing got bigger. Yeah, you should probably go get that thing looked at again. So, back to Miami. Specialist goes, okay, well it's cancerous now. I need you in surgery next week. I have to figure out how to save your life. A week later they do a biopsy and find out my eyesight got worse because it created a cataract. So they fix that too. Then the following week I go and get a methadone radiation patch attached to my eye for 3 days. But wait, it gets worse. So, I think I'm past the worst of it until one morning I wake up and I've gone completely blind in that eye and I'm in searing pain. Another drive to Miami. The ducting tumor exploded in my eye. Tumor necrosis is the medical term. Very rare complication. They sit me down and go, hey, that eye may have to go. Sorry dude. But wait, it didn't get worse after that. Thanks to some intensive therapy I didn't lose the eye. In fact, they were even able to save my vision a few months later with reconstructive surgery. Really thankful for that happy ending. I hope you keep your eyesight and never have any other complications in your life. Happy ending. Absolute nightmare of middle. Jesus. Eye stuff is awful. Friend of mine just lost her ex-husband and father of her child to a motorcycle accident. But wait, it gets worse. 15-year-old son had a birthday a few days after the accident. Gift arrived in the mail day of the birthday. His father had gotten him motorcycle lessons. Just heartbreaking. Ouch. I know. Brutal. A co-worker of mine, we'll call Andy, had a brother we'll call Mike. Mike's wife died from cancer, leaving Mike and his 2 kids who were around 5 and 7 years old. But wait, it gets worse. Overcome with grief, Mike ended up killing himself, leaving behind his 2 kids. But wait, it gets worse. Andy had to sue his own parents to get custody of Mike's kids due to several issues with the grandparents. But wait, it gets worse. And his wife died suddenly, leaving Andy to take care of Mike's 2 kids and his 2 kids around the same age. This all happened over a 3-year span. Edit, just a minor clarity adjustment. This is the kind of everyday, ongoing horror that makes this the most heartbreaking answer here to me. I worked in an operating room and was on call. Arriving at the hospital, checked in with a doc and patient in pre-op. At least once per year we get someone with something stuck in their ass. The young man was there with his mom and sister, who explained the dildo got stuck Friday night, but that their grandma was sick, so they waited until Sunday to bring him to the hospital so he could see her. Then per usual the family and patient is asked if they have any questions before we take him back. Mom says yeah. While he's in there, can you test him for STDs? His sister tested positive and was operating the dildo, so we want to make sure. I have so many questions, none of which I want to know the answer to. Deep down I think we already know the answers and they all have something to do with large appliances. Got rear-ended by a truck. Pulled over to check my trunk on a hilly street. A car parked behind me rolled downhill and crushed me between it and my newly messed up trunk. Suffered some cracked ribs. Ouch. Oh goodness, I don't even know where to start with this, but here goes nothing. Last December 26th my phone rang early in the morning. My dad had passed away unexpectedly in the night sometime. One day after Christmas and the day before his birthday. I tried to help my mom get through all the legal paperwork and things that comes after a spouse dies. Made sure she had groceries and company multiple times a week. I lived in a different town from my mom, so I was traveling a lot between towns. 6 weeks after my father passed, my mom fell ill. I brought her to the hospital early one Wednesday morning. Had her flown out to a bigger hospital later that afternoon. She passed away that Saturday. Apparently she had an aggressive form of cancer, and any symptoms she must have been feeling we attributed to grief. But wait, there's more. The night of my mom's funeral, which I planned and made arrangements for, my horrible sister gets wasted and goes bananas, keeping me up all night when I was already physically and emotionally exhausted. The few days that her and her husband were in town, they basically just took what they wanted and accused me of stealing things. Not to my face, but to family friends. I was left to clear, clean, and get the house ready for sale by myself. My mother had so many things from deceased family members that she hadn't had time to go through, sort, and donate, yet so I did by myself. But wait, there's more. 6 weeks after my mother passed away, while I was working on her house, I miscarried. In the last few weeks I have found out that I have fibroids and potential cancer in my uterus/cervix, so I have a whole other path of uncertainty to walk down in the coming months. As far as I'm concerned, 2020 can hurry up and get the hell over already. That is absolutely heartbreaking. If you ever need support, send me a message and I'll be happy to lend an ear. There are also some great people over at r/mom4aminute who are always willing to listen, care, commiserate, or congratulate. I sincerely hope that you kick cancer's ass. I never heard of that sub. It sounds awesome. Thank you. I was a manager at a hotel in Oakland. A valet parker took a guest's Corvette out for a joyride. He lost control of the car in a residential area and crashed into a parked car in a driveway. The Corvette and the parked car smashed through the home's garage door and caught on fire. The home partially burned down. The valet was caught by the police a block away, fleeing on foot with a broken leg. Credit where it's due. That guy is a tough bastard to limp around with a broken leg knowing that he'd be caught anyways. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I broke my arm really badly in a bike wreck about 10 years ago and managed to carry the bike 2 of the 3 miles home before it started to hurt badly enough for me to realize that something was wrong. Had a tooth pulled, got dry socket, finally recovered and had the implant surgery. Got dry socket again. Also, found out laughing gas and hydrocodone gives me panic attacks. Forgive my ignorance. What is dry socket? When you extract your teeth, there should be a blood clot in the spot they removed. Dry socket is when the blood clot got dislodged and leave a gaping hole that reach the bone and nerve. Very, very painful. I work at an office. The building is owned by my boss, who is too cheap to shell out for actual maintenance service and has employees do handy work around the clock. One day, it started to snow. The snow was sticking to the sidewalk and showed no signs of letting up, so of course me and my coworkers had to go out and clean it. So while my boss sat in his nice, cushy office, we start shoveling. One of my coworkers, let's call him X, is relatively new and, having grown up in an apartment complex, has never shoveled before. Well, maybe that contributed to what happened next. He starts pushing the shovel in front of him at a crotch level, and eventually, the shovel head gets stuck on a raised brick and it pushes the handle end of the shovel into X's crotch. There was no shovel handle because he had been given a broken shovel with a rusted end. Castration being imminent, X proceeds to tuck and roll off the sidewalk and into oncoming traffic. Fortunately for X, somebody grabbed him and pulled him back to safety. Boss drove him to the emergency room and paid for the resulting tetanus shot and 14 stitches on the inner thigh. Needless to say, he was not allowed to shovel again. Edit, a word. I don't remember seeing that deleted scene from when Dwight bought the building. You know it had to be Nate that got injured. A month ago though my dad had covered as he was quite flu-ish, vomiting etc. Test comes back no, he doesn't have it, but still sick. A few days later, the day after my brother's birthday, he dies on his bedroom floor of massive heart attack. We're all in shock. Then my brother starts getting heart pains, probably from stress or anxiety. but insists on getting an EKG. Feels like he's going to pass out all the time. Probably fine but still stressful. 3 weeks to the day after my father dies I get a phone call that my mother cannot breathe. Almost fainted on the stairs. Needs me to take her to the ER. I'm convinced she has COVID. She didn't. She's there till 3 AM. Needed 2 blood transfusions because her iron levels are insanely low. The day after we've taken her home and start working on a nutrition plan, the dog gets bit by something. Starts limping and drooling, and we have to rush him to the vet to make sure he's not having an allergic reaction. He's fine now, so hooray. Been a rough month, guys. I hope things get better for you, dude. Things will get better. A woman I know got divorced just days after her wedding because she discovered that her new husband had an affair. But wait, it gets worse. She found out because apparently he cheated on the wedding with his affair, who also was invited. They were busted by the father of the bride. You have to be a special kind of scumbag to cheat on your wedding day. It really takes another level of a trash human being to do that. But it's the last day I'll ever get to be a free man/woman. As if you weren't in a relationship for however long it was leading up to the wedding. Friends of mine were getting married. They were planning a huge, fancy wedding in the major city where they lived. They both had large families and many friends. About a month before the wedding, the groom's mother has a massive heart attack. Miraculously, she somehow survives. But it seems unlikely she'll be able to attend the wedding because it was being held about 1,000 miles away from mom's home. However, she continues to improve, and her doctor determines that she will be healthy enough to travel to the wedding by car. So, the groom's parents start heading out about 3 days before the wedding so they can take the trip slowly and get to the major city the day before the wedding. Mom's tired, but doing okay. She decides to skip out on the rehearsal dinner so that she can conserve her energy for the wedding and reception. Mom wakes up the next day, gets dressed, gets her hair and nails done, looks gorgeous. Her husband drives her to the church and gets her settled in the front pew. The wedding is to start in about 15 minutes. Just as the bride is getting ready to walk down the aisle, Mom collapses in the church. An ambulance is called. Groom helps get Mom into the ambulance. Dad goes with Mom to the hospital with groom's blessing. Wedding goes on as scheduled about 30 minutes after the initial start time because there are 2 other weddings scheduled at the church that particular day. Wedding ceremony is beautiful. Then, there was a gorgeous reception nearby just afterward. Reception is beautiful, and then there was an after party that evening. Also a ton of fun. We find out the next day that the groom's mother had passed in the church and was dead by the time the ambulance arrived. They made a show of trying to revive her, but she was gone. The groom knew this, but didn't want to ruin his bride's wedding day. So, though he had just watched his mother die, he plastered a smile on his face and got through the day. He just told the bride they were taking his mom to the hospital to stabilize her. He didn't tell her what actually happened until the next day. The whole thing was so crazy. But, despite all of it, they are still married 25 years later and have 3 gorgeous kids. So while the wedding was kind of a disaster, the marriage most definitely worked. They are still married 25 years later. A love that strong has to endure. That's one of the most selfless gestures I could think of. In 2018, my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer in April. My stepdad was diagnosed with terminal cancer in June. My mum was diagnosed with cancer in September. Treatable, thankfully. One of my closest friends was diagnosed with cancer, also treatable, in October, and I had to have my 12-year-old bunny put down a few days later. Then in November, my aunt died. I was in work when I took the call about my aunt, and I just couldn't stop laughing because it was so ridiculous that this was happening all one after the other. It was hysteria. I wasn't amused by her passing. Fast forward to 2020. My stepdad died at the beginning of May and my dad died at the beginning of June. The friend who had cancer in 2018 called me the day after my dad's death to say her cancer is back and it's in her bones. And then my dad's funeral was scheduled for 3 days before Father's Day, which happened to be the day before my birthday this year. So yeah, that's my tale of woe. Worst thing is, I'm not convinced I'm even at the end of the story yet. Edit. Thank you for all the kind thoughts. I'm sorry to hear how many other people have had similar experiences. Hope you're all doing okay. I'm absolutely fine. The only positive thing about knowing someone is going to die is having the chance to spend quality time with them and make happy memories. I even got married early this year to make sure my dad and stepdad could share the day with the family. There's no link between the cancer diagnosis and the area. Everyone lives in different cities. 2 of the people had a genetic cancer risk and the others were elderly. I also promise I'm not radioactive. Jeez. Talk about, but wait. There's more. I'm so sorry to hear about that. I had to remove my wisdom tooth in a really cheap dental clinic. The dentist has an eye problem in which she removes my tooth besides my wisdom tooth instead of my wisdom tooth with manual equipment. Removing one tooth is almost an hour. She then removes the not my wisdom tooth, and as soon as she realizes her mistake she then began on my real wisdom tooth. But as soon as she started working on it the anesthesia began to wear off. At the end I have to get a huge stitch on the site of not my wisdom tooth was supposed to be, and I have to go on my first day of work on Monday. Surgery happened on a Friday. Edit 1. Wow. Didn't think this would blow up overnight. It happened 2016. I'm a broke college kid who just graduated college that time. So I cannot get good lawyers or sue. Sue for malpractice. Yeah, who TF takes the wrong tooth? Lady has been huffing her own supply. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.